Welcome to Auntie Mel Mel Life Unfiltered, the podcast where we say the things everyone else whispers, feels, or pretends they're totally fine about. Around here, nothing is too awkward, too messy, or too, oh my god, did she really just say that? Yes, I did. This is your space where real talk, real stories, real emotions, and the kind of honesty that makes you laugh, cry, and heal a little. Sometimes all at once. So grab your drink, get comfy, and let's dive in. Because life's too short to sugarcoat it, and I'm not here to do that anyway. Welcome to Auntie Mel Mel Life Unfiltered. Let's get into it. Hey friends, welcome back to Auntie Mel Mel Life Unfiltered. Today's episode is one I've really been looking forward to because we're talking about dogs, humans, and some of the things that don't get talked about enough in the animal industry. I'm joined by Kristen, the owner of Intertwine Canine, and this is not just a quick fix episode, not labels, not forcing compliance. We're getting into dog training myths, outdated methods that are still being pushed, and what really training actually should look like, understanding behavior, communication, and the human side of the leash. Because a lot of dogs aren't bad, stubborn, or aggressive, they're misunderstood. And if you're open to learning and questioning what you've been told, this episode is for you. Hello, Kristen.
Right.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you, girl.
Thank you so much for being on here today. I think this will be a really great episode and a good learning episode. And so many people have their fur babies in their life, and I'm sure get confused on things and what helps the best. So great to have your
Absolutely.
expertise on here today. So for
Yeah.
anyone new to you, can you share who you are and what Intertwine Canine is all about?
My name is Kristen Marino. I have owned Intertwine Canine for 6 years now. I've been training dogs for over a decade. I started walking dogs when I was around like 14-ish and then was doing pet sitting and, walking and then all that type of stuff. So I've been working with dogs for a very long time. So Intertwine Canine was something that I wanted to create because I love working with animals. It's one of my absolute favorite things to do. There's no better feeling than working side by side with another dog. That's literally one of my favorite things. And to have people be able to learn to enjoy their pets just as much as I enjoy their dogs because they just don't know how to live with them properly. They don't know how to have everyone coexist. They just don't know general stuff that I feel like there's so much stuff out there. So my goal was to be able to have people start to learn to enjoy their dogs just as much as I do and make it a little bit more stress free,
Yeah.
education. The more you know, the more you can, the more you can use it and apply it. So that's been my motto ever since. So yeah, that's Intertwined Canine for me.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so glad you could turn your passion into something that you can do every day and you can just see the passion. And that's amazing, like you said, to be side by side by the dog, to get to know them and feel them and, get their
Yep,
vibe and you guys get to learn each other. So it's really important, I'm
absolutely.
sure, with dogs to understand the human as well. So
Yes, yep, very
at
true.
what point did you realize this work wasn't just about dogs, but about people too?
So, as a dog owner myself, I had my first dogs about 13 years ago, and I had dogs growing up, but my first personal dog. There's a huge difference in having a dog growing up and then having a dog that is you are the one taking care of that animal. Like
Hmm.
there's no mom and dad aren't doing it. There's not a whole
Yeah.
family. It's you. So you have to learn. And what a lot of people didn't know when they were growing up, and then they just got a dog is how messy it can really be. Um, so educating the owners, one, I like to talk to them. I wish owners would come to me more on who they should adopt, what breed they should be looking into. There's so much what groomer should you go to, which veterinarian should you go to. There's so many different nuances that how do I work the dog through this? How do I get my dog to be able to go here with me? How do I, coexist? And the humans don't really know. There's so much like, should I do this? Or you're not allowed to do that. Or like, this is not good. And like, this is mean or this is whatever. And there's so much. So with my owners, I try to educate them as much as possible on when your dog gets into certain situations, okay, if we're here, this is how we start to work on this. And before we get here, before we have the, not to be breed specific, but before we have the German Shepherd that we didn't realize is crazy, or, or the
Yeah.
Chihuahua that we thought was going to just be a little lap dog, or the golden retriever that it says on Google that they never show aggression, and you have one resource guarding in your home, you're like, this is unreal, this is craziness. And the
Yeah.
educational side, talking to them and educating them on the befores if we can. And then when we're here, like, okay, this is what you need to
Yeah.
be doing. Training is not something that people sign up for a few weeks and then they just get a trained dog. Animals
Mhm.
are something that are constantly learning. The more their environment changes, every single day is always so different. And you are constantly needing to give this animal information every single day because they are an animal at the end of the day. So, your responsibility that you took on to have this creature, you need to deal with it
Yeah.
every single day, so there's no, and but you get to a point where because of all the hard work you've put in and the relationship you've built, the dog doesn't need as much. You get them to a point where they're super cool to live with. But,
Mhm.
we have to get there.
You're
So,
right.
and some people are starting in the negative, and some people have new puppies that they want to get started right away on the right track, and that is always amazing. So
Yeah.
that's kinda it for the human side, yes, absolutely.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's so
Yep.
important. I don't personally have any dogs now, but I grew up with all kinds of different animals. I live in apartments and I'm a cat lady, so but it's important
Okay.
with all animals. Like you said, they have their own personalities and stuff is always changing for them. Like I
Yep.
just adopted a kitten at 5 weeks at the
Oh,
beginning of
cool.
October, and I had a 12-year-old cat. So that I knew that'd be adjustment. I did a lot of research ahead of
Yep.
time. I kept them separated, let them come to each other in their own time and stuff. Like all of that's so important, and
Yep,
it was
it
like having
is.
a newborn with a new kitten and stuff,
It
like, you
is.
gotta it is, it's a lot of work, but you have to be able to put it into it, and they will become loyal and, become your companion and
And
stuff
it's your
like that, so
responsibility to do that.
mhm.
People that are
Yes.
not like people that if you're gonna have the dog, you need to do some type of something with it.
Right.
Otherwise, it's a liability to society, to itself. It could get in trouble in ways that are just kind of
Yeah.
avoidable-ish, if we put that responsibility in towards this animal, that
Oh,
just
yeah,
like
for
it
sure.
is to groom your animal, just like it is to take your care health-wise of your animal, take it to the
Mhm.
vet. The other part of it is like the mindset of the dog and making sure that we have a dog that's not losing it on everybody. And,
Mhm.
and if we are
Yeah.
there, we need to work on that.
Yeah,
Like,
for
so
sure.
it's not like a stamp of, like, can't do it at because we're having these issues. It's more of like,
Mhm.
"Okay, we need to work on this." If the owners
Right.
want to, some people don't,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
they don't have the time or whatever.
Right, yeah. People need to realize it's not a toy, it's
Mhm.
a living being that needs all kinds of stuff, so, you
Absolutely, yep,
kinda mentioned at the beginning that you wish people would come to you more before they, like, get a dog or adopt or anything. Is that
yep.
something that you would offer, or, like,
Yeah.
would it be nice for someone to reach out to you when they're thinking about getting a dog and seeing what you suggest for their situation and stuff?
Absolutely. Yes, I offer free tips for free. I give people if
Mhm.
people message me and they're just like, "Hey, this is kind of going on." I'll give them some little pointers at times. Other times it is my business and I can't just sit
Right.
here. Also,
Absolutely.
sometimes with dog advice, I need to be there to be able I need to see more, I need to know more
Mhm.
before I can just because there's no like, "Okay, let me look in my textbook and see when your dog
Yeah.
does this." More of like I
Yeah.
need to see when you're dealing with emotions. So
Oh, yeah.
with the picking the dogs and stuff like that, a lot of people just pick the cutest one or they'll pick the shyest one or they'll pick the one that whatever. And if you don't know what you're getting, who you're getting it from, what breed
Mhm.
do you even have, what was this dog's background if it's a rescue, there's so much that kind of goes into it that I can get to know the people and their lifestyle, and I would be open to, if they're going to follow through with training, going to the shelter with them and maybe helping pick out a cool dog or
Mhm.
whatever. The
That's
best dog for
awesome.
that. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And same with puppies. If people want to send me, I think getting from a breeder or getting from the rescue, whichever you'd like to do, that's your prerogative. There's no either way. An animal's getting a home; they need one.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but looking into certain breeders, I can look into ones that maybe might be backyard bred, or if your friend Lisa had a litter in the backyard, that doesn't always mean that that's the right route to
Right.
go taking that thing
Yeah.
a whole 15 years or so. So we wanna
Mhm.
make sure before we invest, make sure that this is the absolute right, because you don't wanna think back and be like, "Oh, I wish," or whatever, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's almost kinda like picking a partner. You
It
gotta
is, you
make
can't
sure
break
the
up with them, that's what I was
compatibility
gonna
there.
say. I mean, you
Yeah.
can, but, like,
Yeah.
it's a little bit
Yeah,
different. You
no.
don't get to
Or
pick
like a
the
kid. That's your
personality.
kid for real, as we all say, they are fur babies, and they
It
really
is,
are,
yep,
so
yep, yep.
what are some of the biggest dog training myths you still see being pushed?
Um, I think, one of the things that I feel like that is bigger more in this area, because 'cause I'm from Boston, and not that there it's a I know it happens out there too, it happens everywhere, but this whole, like, alpha, dominant, this whole, like, militant act of training dogs, like, training should look like it's not training. Training should look like something that is just applied in their day, and not something that you're trying to be, like, this big tough guy to your dog. I feel like that is a big thing, that you gotta be the alpha to your dog, or else or my dog just never plays, so he doesn't like to play, or my dog just hates going for walks. They just hate it. They don't like going outside. None of that is normal. None of that
Yeah.
is normal behavior. So when we're hearing these things that, oh, I heard, well, my dog just doesn't this, or my dog just doesn't, there's usually some more like going on in behind the scenes. Other things that I feel like I've kind of felt is that picking the right vets for your dog too. So not all vets are good with certain power breeds. There are certain breeds that if you have a breed and you take it to the vet, you're going to get judged before they even come into the room, and I've just seen that happen too many times, that you need to find the right vet. That not all vets love their job. Not all vets
Mhm.
should be vets. Not all, vet techs should be vet techs. There's certain careers for just literally anybody that might not be 100% for you, but you shouldn't,
Mhm.
if you're gonna work with the animals, you have to try and be a little bit more open-minded to, just because we have this breed in the room doesn't mean this is gonna happen. Or we see, so that's another thing that I feel like, that's not really a myth, but that's just something in the animal field that I feel like is something that owners should really like key in on. Like, stick up for your animal. And, if your animal is hard at the vet, you need to look into getting some help for it, and finding the right vet for you too is very important. Um, uh, Let me think. I feel like the main thing for me is the heavy-handedness in training, and the alpha stuff for me, that whole
Mhm.
thing. The other part of it is dogs aren't allowed to be told no. That's another side. So there's the far one side where they're being like way too heavy-handed, and it's the alpha, or we have the way over here where a dog's not allowed to be told no, and they just get treats for everything, and we just redirect everything. Everything is
Yeah.
redirected. There's no telling the dog no, there's no corrections involved, there's no nothing. So there, you have to meet in the middle. So there, and that's my opinion, and just being in the field this long and working on one side of the spectrum and the other side of the spectrum, and learning in the middle from seeing how
Right.
both sides just aren't right. It's just, I feel like that's one of the biggest myths, and one of the things I've found in this area, that when I go and meet with people, this is how they're talking to me. They're telling me they need to be the alpha of their dog. They're telling me that their dog needs to know better, or, the way that they do certain things is just
Mhm.
not, it's not necessary, and it's not the way you build a friendship or a relationship with the animal, because that's really what it is at the end of the day.
Mhm.
Um so that would, I would say, be the biggest thing for me, and something that I wish more people would look at their animals a little bit different. And just because generations of people maybe said this is how you do things, there's so many ways to do things. Be
Yeah.
more open-minded to more methods. And if you're stuck in one method and you're seeing that it might not really be working, or you question it sometimes, look into something else. Just be a little bit
Yeah.
more open-minded.
Yeah, that's
Not here
very
to change
important.
minds, not here to bash on people for one way they believe or another. This is just my personal opinion and what I've seen. And that's a big thing that I want people to change, the way they look at their dogs. You're not their alpha. You're not their, you're their buddy. And at the
Yeah.
end of the day, your buddy needs help sometimes. They need to be told not to do something. They need to be told they're doing something right. They need to be
Mhm.
educated, so at the end, that's just kinda how I feel on that, yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes a whole lot of sense. It's almost like we said, like having a kid. You gotta
Yeah,
not be too extreme one side or the other.
yep,
They need that discipline, but they also need to know that you're their friend and,
yep. It's
that,
fair, it's just
that
gotta be
old
fair.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Definitely,
Yep,
that is something around this area. People are stuck in the old school mentality with a lot of that
yeah,
stuff, so
yep.
why are labels like bad, stubborn, or aggressive so harmful?
Because most of the time the dog doesn't know. A lot of people come to me and they're like, my dog knows this and my dog knows that. And when I see them do it in person, the dog doesn't know what they think they know. They know a certain pattern of something if it's done in a certain way on a Tuesday at 9 a.m. with five treats in your hand. And, but
Yeah.
there's more to these things than like just a dog doing it in your home. They got to be able to do it outside of your home, these different things. So, when the dog doesn't do it outside because they haven't really practiced it at all, they think the dog is stubborn. They think the dog is just doing these things on purpose. You're purposely ignoring me. My dog has no attention on me when we're outside. He's so stubborn. And it's like, no, he just has literally been shown no reason to give any type of hoot about you outside.
Yeah.
Usually most people just let their dog outside to do their thing, and what do you think the dog does out there? It's literally entertaining itself outside and learning that the environment is fun. When I'm outside in
Yeah.
the environment, I can do this and I can do that. So then when the dog's not listening to the owner, when they're calling them, they think they're stubborn, but how many times did you practice outside calling your dog, having them come back to you, literally showing them what to do multiple times in different situations? Most of the
Mhm.
time, they're all gonna tell me they never did that. So then I say, "We're not stubborn. We just don't know. We haven't been trained enough to learn how to listen in these situations,"
Right.
basically.
Yeah.
There's a lot of emotion behind the dog that needs to be learned. Like, they need to learn impulse control. They need to learn emotional regulation. How do I go from being really excited to calming down? How do I get there? Some dogs can do it easier than others. And,
Mhm.
them not being able to do that doesn't make them stubborn or anything like that. Most of the dogs that I've dealt with that do like bite or have like issues with people and stuff like that are usually all fear based. They've just not been exposed enough. They just, most of the dogs that I work with never leave their home, they never leave their yard, and they don't go out very much. And a car ride is not leaving the home. That's just being in a box in the
Yeah.
world, but it's different watching Susan go by you in a car while you're in the car compared to having to walk by Susan in the street who's looking at you and the pressure of it. It's just
Oh,
so
yeah.
different. So if
Mhm.
your dog struggles with people, most of the time that I've found it's always usually been fear based. So when we
Yeah.
say the dog is aggressive, it can look like that to the eye, but there's usually more
Right.
underneath. So when we
Yeah.
label, when we don't really know what we're looking at, we can kind of cause issues. Because what if we want to rehome this dog? We're going to say he's this, this, and this, but who's that being diagnosed by?
Right.
Someone
Yeah.
that doesn't really 100% understand dog body language or dogs in general
Right.
or how we got
Yeah.
because of lack of or too much of or
Right.
what have you.
Mhm. Right. Yeah,
I'll
that's so
rant on for
important.
forever, so I'm trying to.
You're fine, no problem. We can go as long as we need. So, like I said, I keep it real open. That's what I like. Just kind of like sitting down with your friend, having a good conversation.
Yeah,
That's what I want,
and
a
I and
real
I feel like
comfortable
I
vibe.
wanna
So,
make sure that I'm not, like, bashing anybody with
oh,
this,
yeah,
like,
for
I'm just
sure.
trying to be very open, this is just my opinion on stuff. If you're doing stuff one way that I'm talking about or a whole other
Right.
way or whatever,
Hmm.
do what you do,
Right.
and if you feel like you wanna learn more, then that's what this is about.
Right. Yep. Not every episode's going to be for everybody. And like you said, everyone does stuff differently. So, yeah, this
Yeah,
is just your view on it and you're
right,
professional in what you do. So,
right.
let's see here. When a dog is struggling, we kind of answered this in the last question. What are they usually trying to communicate? Basically, like they're fearful, things like that.
Yes, sometimes it can be fearful ness, like, some dogs, depending on, the age, they will struggle in some social settings as they're maturing, getting older. We're also dealing with genetics too. So if mom
Mhm.
and dad were super nervous dogs and they were just not outgoing and they weren't really like confident, then the puppies, not all of them, but some of them will end up having these traits a little bit. I've noticed, who you breed together. When we're breeding, we're supposed to be breeding to better the breed, not just, oh,
Mhm.
I have a cute dog and I have a cute dog and we need to do this because whatever traits mom and dad have are going to these babies. And we have, dogs like, basically, if Joe had a litter in his backyard of German Shepherds, the police force is not gonna ask him if he can have those dogs for the
Right.
police force. Why
Yeah.
would he not want that? Because those dogs are genetically not good for having to
Mhm.
deal with high stress of police work and what they're looking for in working line dogs. That's why
Yeah.
those working line dogs are, like, brought overseas or they are bred specifically for work.
That makes
Joe, who had a
sense.
litter with his shepherd who's never left the house before, and the neighbor who got to him, who also is never been, that's you're gonna get weaker dogs from it. Not
Mhm.
that they're bad, they're just gonna handle stressors, and they're you're gonna need to put a little bit more extra work into that.
Yeah.
So that's the other part of having people ask me, maybe before we're getting a dog, so we don't get into this thing that we have to put so much work into. We could maybe find, and maybe somebody wants that project dog, but
Mhm.
a mom of 5, who's home all the time, and the husband that travels a lot, she doesn't need this dog,
No.
So we wanna make sure that we are, so the signs that dogs show are sometimes genetic, sometimes it is lack of socialization. For me, that's a huge one. People are not getting their dogs out and about enough. They are too much of a homebody, and it's not good for their mental like
Yeah.
their mental status too. They need to get out more and do more things and see things. And if your dog isn't good in those types of things, they can absolutely learn to work through that stuff. Reactivity is one of the biggest things that I hear from people. Their dog barks at people, they bark at cars, they bark at, kids, they bark at dogs. Every time I go for a walk, I got to go at 6 a.m. when nobody's around, because my dog will lose it on somebody when they see them or whatever. And they'll label that as something and then they won't work on it. And then they'll just think the dog just needs to be in the house and they can't do anything because of that and
Yeah.
let them sit in that. So, these behaviors and these things that these dogs vocalize and show that they're fearful or whatever the case may be, are all stuff that they're trying to show to you that isn't something that's something that should be. It's more of something that we can work on and build off of
Yeah, that's
and see as
important.
help
Yeah,
from the
and
dog that they're showing that they need some help there.
right. For sure, definitely, and that's important what you said about genetics. I didn't even really think about that. You don't really think about that as much, it's
Right.
important to know where the puppy came from, so that's
Yes.
important for sure.
Yep.
Excuse me. If training isn't about quick fixes, what should people realistically expect instead?
Um, so with working with the dog, you end up building the relationship to work on the things that you're struggling with. So most people think, okay, we got to train the dog, we got to work on sit, we got to work on down, we got to work on these certain commands. And obedience does not solve anything behaviorally. If your dog is, a counter surfer or does certain things, sit and down is not going to help with that. If our dog jumps on people, sitting down is not going to help with that. We're not addressing the problem. We just have a dog that knows how to sit and down. So
Mhm.
when I'm working with people, we come up with exercises to work on building the dog's learning of yes, we're doing something right. No, we're doing something wrong and we need to fix it. We need to, okay, that's not right. Think of something else. Throw me something else because that one wasn't it, and teaching the dog how to understand when they hear, because a lot of people think their dog knows yes, they know no. My dog knows no, he just does it anyway. Well, if your dog knew no, they wouldn't do it anyway. And that's okay. That's something we just need to work on.
Mhm.
So through play and stuff like that, which most people don't play with their dogs. They say their dogs don't like to, or they just, they don't know. Some owners will say they play with their dog by giving them belly rubs. And I'm like, that's not play. That's just love, and that's great.
Yeah.
But we need to do something with exercising the dog mentally and physically and giving them something to do. So through play, we can teach the dog "Hey, I told you to let that go. So then when I'm telling the dog, "I see you about to jumping on the counter." Where do we learn that? We learn that through the high intensity of play to
Mhm.
learn how to shut something off and how to not do something. So then when I say it in other terms, it's also showing the owners that you gotta follow through with the dog. You can't
Yeah.
just be, like, threatening them. Like, "Hey, over here. Nope, don't do that. Don't do that. Meh. No, no." You gotta go over and having a leash on the dog, showing the owners that you gotta start cracking on these things, and it will help in the long term. Your dog will learn to stop doing these things the more you
Mhm.
kinda start getting on it. Most people,
Yeah.
obviously, they're busy and it's hard to, like, have an eye on the dog like that and stuff like that, but there's no quick fix. Like, we're not gonna just correct your dog one time for jumping, and then that's gonna be the rest of it, and your dog's never gonna do it again. That's just not a thing. So,
Right.
there's no quick fix on some of these things. It's more of like how we're living with the dog needs to change. In order
Mhm.
for the dog to change, we need to change, and that's how you start to see that. So, as far as, like, even when I do my board and trains where people will send the dog to me for training and I have them the owners can pick, so I have the dogs for either 3 weeks up to 6 weeks depending on how long they wanna do, and what I do with the dogs is temporary. It's something that
Mhm.
I build with them and I teach the owners how to continue it. But if you don't continue at home and if you don't work on these things, the dog will regress and go backwards and just go with what works.
Mhm.
So, as far as the quick fix goes, there just is not one. Once your dog understands stuff, then you can deal with behavior so much easier. There
Yeah,
there
for
is the
sure.
quick fix there, but in the beginning, there is no, like,
Yeah.
100% quick fix, you know?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a work in progress. Everything that I talk
People
about on here and in life, is a work in progress. You always have to learn and grow and continue to educate. So it's just
Yeah,
not an overnight thing. So
yep. When you're dealing with behavior, even with people, you're not gonna just change overnight. If only there was a
no,
quick fix for some of
right?
these things, it would be everyone would be and there just isn't on any when you're dealing with, like, behaviors and habits and learning what's right and what's wrong, stuff
hmm
like that.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have a specific dog or a specific training situation that really stuck with you or that changed how you thought about training or different situations?
I would say, obviously, the dogs that I've had have been a huge part of, like, everything that I've learned, and even the 2 that have passed, I still think of them today in
No.
situations that I remember dealing with them a long time ago that a dog is showing me today. It's so weird. I see a lot of certain traits in some of the dogs that they just do certain things that remind me of others that I've worked with, and they just have these little habits that
Aw.
they do, and these weird little and I can connect them with certain dogs and stuff, or certain dogs that I maybe struggled with a long time ago that I get my dog again, like, that's kinda just like that, but different, that I can
Mhm.
do 100 times better on this one because 'cause I'm always learning and growing and
Exactly.
myself all the time.
Yeah.
Bob, that's right here on my shirt, he, was a dog that basically, my dog passed that year, and then he was born, and then I was doing a board and train with him for his owner. I got him at 10 weeks old. It was when I first moved to Sandusky too, so he came with me, uh,
Aw.
when we moved here and stuff, and I worked with him and trained him, and now he, went home with his owners, but he lives quite a ways away, so his me and his owner will meet halfway, and I get him
Aw.
year. So every year, like last year, I had him for 4 months, and he just stays with me, and he's just the best boy, and I take him with me to my in-homes and all the things, and he's like my little demo dog, and he's become
Aw.
like God knows, he's like half mine, half hers, like,
Aw.
we'll
That's
video call
precious.
sometimes, he'll see, or a lot of my dog clients, when their moms are watching me on their story, their dogs will, like, come running over and, like, look for me because they hear
Aw.
in the videos, and they'll be like, "Where's she at?" You know? So and Bob's one of those ones that, like, he'll watch me on the TV, and he's just like he has just been a special boy to me. There are certain dogs that are very just hit me different, there are some
Yeah.
that I love, and then I love them all, but there are just
Mhm.
certain ones that just kinda and he he's part of my logo because of that. He's just been just an amazing dog that's helped shape me in many ways and been one of those ones that stuck out. So he gets to be part of just my, what Intertwine Canine is to me.
That's awesome, that's
Yeah.
amazing. How did you come up with the name of Intertwine Canine?
So I just like was randomly walking around my house one time and I just like sat on the couch and I was like, Intertwine Canine, like intertwine. I just kind of like randomly like thought of that in my head. And I'll never forget like the day. I remember just, because it was just like that was what it was. It wasn't even anything
Yeah.
cool like that. Like I wish it was like a cooler moment or like, I church. I literally just, like, thought of it in my brain and just thought that that sounded super cool, and then I just made the pages right there, like, when I kinda was like, "That's the name, I'm gonna use that," and,
Yeah.
that was what it was, yeah. I just thought intertwine is such a good word because you're trying to connect and intertwine
Mhm.
these 2 different things to learn how to coexist together, and when we
Yeah.
use intertwine as a word, that's what we normally use it for. So I thought that was just like a great word because I'm not just trying to teach the dog. The dog
Yeah.
is one part of it. You are the hugest part of it. So we're getting everybody together. We all got to be on the
Mhm.
same page. So
Yeah.
that's where that came from. Yeah. Just kind of
It's
randomly.
perfect, so
Yeah.
yeah, and sometimes that's what works is when those random moments come to you and it just hits you and you just
Yeah.
know it.
It's just like, yeah, you think it would be like this like cool magical moment, but it was just like a random thought that I was like, you know what? That's it, man. And
Yeah.
it stuck with me. So yeah.
That's awesome, it's perfect, I think it works perfectly for what you're trying to accomplish and what your mission and, your story is on helping and, with the humans and the dogs, so that's perfect. I
Absolutely.
love your logo, I think it's so cute, so
Thank you. Yeah, I've changed it a few times over the time because I've just kinda I don't know, I've had different looks for it, and this is one of the newer looks that I kinda have gotten with it, and then I still, like, don't like it sometimes, but gotta stick with
Right.
it. You have to keep a
Oh,
look,
yeah.
So,
I know.
this'll
That's hard
be
with
it, but
branding, you wanna change it up a lot, but then you have to
yes.
change everything.
Yeah, because you just change, like and my logos are more personal, like, they're not just like a
Yeah.
German Shepherd running through a hoop or, just like
Right.
a random they're more like it's personalized, this is Fenrir, and, like, I had another German Shepherd, he was all black, but I just wanted more color, so I put the other
Mhm.
Shepherd, and then that's Athena, my beagle,
Aw.
she's I still have her, and then that's Bob right here, so, yeah, that's kinda like my and I have that, for so sometimes I, like, wanna change it up a little bit, but gotta keep it how it is.
Right. So you're a huge animal lover overall, do you have any other pets besides dogs?
No, I just have Athena. At one point in time, I had 5 dogs, but now I just have her, and, she's 13 now.
Aw.
She's the cutest little thing. She was my first dog that I ever got, like, myself, and, I thought the others would be past her, but it just didn't work out that way, but she has been the one that's taught me so much, like, that I overlooked things with her and stuff that because of my shepherds, they're just so big and loud and fun, and,
Mhm.
like, I did protection work with them, and I did scent work with them, and I did herding with them, and I did all kinds of random fun exercises with them, and then I had this beagle that I've always had that, like, not till more recently, I started doing more, like, scent work stuff with her,
Mhm.
and, yeah, she loves that stuff, so that's my girl, that's the
That's
only dog I got
awesome.
right now. We have little outdoor cats like Caroline, she's like neighbor's cat technically, but so yeah, she had 2 babies and I got them all spayed and neutered and now they're just kind of in, outdoor cats or whatever, but
Yeah.
I consider them little family. When we move, I'll
Mm.
probably take it with, so
Right. Oh, yeah, that's how I am. It's hard to ignore those strays, and I've always been
yeah.
a big advocate for finding stray animals homes. Like, I found a lot of stray cats homes and try to do my best to get them fixed and help them the best that we can, so it's really
Yeah, sometimes
important.
you don't know the sexes of them at first,
Yeah.
the mom, Caroline, had them 2, and then one was a girl and the other was a boy, and I had no idea, and before I knew that, the girl was pregnant and Caroline was
Yeah.
pregnant again, so I had these 2 pregnant cat I'm
Oh my
outside
gosh.
cutting umbilical cords with nail trimmers and
Oh,
trying to,
man.
keeping these and I found all the
Mhm.
babies a home, they all went, like,
Aw, that's
amazing
good.
homes, and, they still will text me and just be like, show me
Aw.
pictures of them and stuff, and I just love that. And once I got everybody like, once they were done being pregnant, I signed them up and I was like, "Get spayed and neutered right now."
Yeah, for
Litters
sure.
of
It
kittens,
happens
there was
fast.
so much. Yeah, it is a lot of work to deal with them too, you know?
Yeah, it is. Yes,
Yeah.
that's amazing though.
Especially
So
if you
I'm a
want them
huge animal
socialized,
person.
you know,
Yeah.
like,
Oh yeah.
I made sure they were around dogs, they were getting handled every day. Nobody wants a cat that doesn't really want affection, you know?
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
there are people that don't mind, and, you know, that is a good thing, but I want the cats to be social, so I made sure I
Mhm.
this isn't about cats, but it's about the
It's okay.
socialization of it too,
Animals,
you know,
yeah.
being
Yeah.
hands-on, doing all the stuff like, at first. Now all
Mhm.
these people that have these kittens, they're with houses with all dogs and things, and they're social, and they love pets, and it's because 'cause they've just
Yeah.
always gotten it even though they were outdoor cats, you know?
Mhm.
Because otherwise, it just will be, like, afraid of people, you know, and the
Oh,
touch
for
and
sure.
stuff, so
Yeah. Yeah, that's very important, and it's important for all animals to have that, and
yes. Yep,
it
all
goes, I'm
animals.
sure, hand in hand with your training. I'm sure that's a lot of issues with dogs. I'm sure it's having other pets in the home and, just kinda throwing
Yes.
them into the situation, so
Yep, it is definitely something that the dogs need to learn how to coexist with, because not all dogs just, like, get along right away, but that doesn't mean it can't be that way, and,
Mhm.
I feel like dogs need to learn how to live with cats. They don't shouldn't think always want to they should learn how to coexist with them, and it can be possible, and some tougher dogs than others with the cats, but it can still be something that we work on, because the cat should be able to roam and feel good living in the home and not like hunkered down because
Mhm.
every time they look somewhere, the dog is going to be like, oh, where you at? You know? So
Yeah.
you want to make sure everyone's able to coexist. If you have an older dog with a younger puppy, making sure you learn how to advocate for your puppy, but also advocate for your older dog that didn't sign up for this puppy,
Mhm.
that, you know, you want to make sure that everyone's getting taken care of right, making sure that dogs aren't being rude to each other throughout the day and like not sharing or just stealing stuff from each other or, you know,
Mhm.
basic, just like your kids kind of. You can't be letting
Yeah.
them bully
Mhm.
each other. You can't be letting, you know,
Yeah.
one picking when I not whatever. So,
Yeah,
and that
it is.
happens
It
a
all
lot
goes back to that.
overall.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, that was all the questions I had for you. Do you have any specific areas you'd like to go over? Any questions or anything you'd like to share?
I guess I'll just take this time to talk about like what I offer for people that
Mhm.
might be interested in stuff if that's okay.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so with Intertwine Canine, I offer in-home sessions where I come to the home and I work with you guys. It's a 1 hour session where we work together on whatever some of your goals are. And each week I'll send you home with homework to work on in between. And we do that until we feel like we're at the point where you're feeling good. I do offer group classes more so in the spring and summertime for clients that have already worked with me before.
Mhm.
So we're having more of a class where everyone's learning to proof around each other, not trying to like learn something right there. That is the other thing, I guess. Group class, I'm just not a huge fan of it if the dogs are all coming in not knowing anything.
Mhm.
Because imagine your dog like not knowing anything, you don't know anything, and we're bringing you around everything that's exciting and triggering puppies,
Yeah.
people, things. It can kind of be a rough learning environment, and it doesn't need
Mhm.
to be like that. It can be accomplished that way, but I think maybe doing private stuff first and you getting the knowledge on how to work with your specific dog and then bringing it around things just makes the learning process easier.
For
Um,
sure.
but I also offer board and train programs where I have the dogs and they stay with me and I work on basics, obedience stuff, but I also mainly work on like socialization environmentally and around other people and animals. Basically, my programs are custom to the dog and the situation. So, whatever we're
Mhm.
working with and whatever the amount of time I'm given. So, if we have a lot of stuff to accomplish or we have a dog that's really in the negative, struggling, a 2 week board and train is we're gonna get where we're gonna get, you know?
Yeah.
I used to stress on those things and trying to get people what they're in their brain, what they're looking for in that
Mhm.
time frame, but with dealing with the animal, I can get so much accomplished, but there's, certain things that time is just
Mhm.
part of it, and if it's not
Yeah.
there, it just needs to come in some other way, you know, if we can't do the
Absolutely.
boarding frame. So,
Mhm.
those are the 2 main services that I offer. Anyone who might be interested in that or you just wanna ask me any questions, feel free to send me a message.
Okay.
On my website, I have a phone consultation calendar for people to book phone consultations with me, they're free, and I've even just had people do it just to ask me questions and just chat about their dog, and I give little tips and stuff, or honestly, if I feel like it's not a situation that needs it, I will tell you that and tell you, "Here's some stuff," and give that a go and let me know. And if so, then
Yeah.
we'll train together. If not, I also try to work with people. There are certain situations that I feel that one, I'm a business owner, so I need to make my own money and do this as
Mhm.
my livelihood. But I also feel for people in certain situations that I will work with people on certain incomes and stuff like that too, to give them the help and also help their dog.
Yeah.
And so if anyone is interested in information or, wanting to get their dog trained, those are the things that I do. And those are the ways that you can get in touch with me.
Okay, yeah, awesome, and I will definitely post all your links in the show notes, and when I post the episodes, I'll make sure everything is linked to you so everyone can
Sweet.
find your website and your socials more easily, so before
Perfect.
we end the episode, I like to do a little rapid fire just for the fun and just to get
Okay.
to know you a little bit, so coffee or energy drink?
I would have said energy drink a long time ago, but coffee now.
Coffee now, yeah.
Yep.
That's been almost everybody's answer.
I drink the Alanis though. Those are pretty
Oh.
delicious. I don't know if you
Oh,
ever
there
had
goes my
those.
cat.
Oh,
Come
look at the
on,
cat.
Blue. She's gotta be here with me, so
Yep.
I put
Hey, I'm
in my
glad.
intro episode, you may see cats because 'cause they're just around, so
Fair, fair. That's okay.
Yes. Early mornings or late nights?
I say I'm more of a morning girl. I can barely make it past 9 p.m. these days.
Yeah, I get it. Do you have a favorite dog breed?
I would say my favorite breed would probably be. I'd say I'll always have a soft spot for German Shepherds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've known a few in my life, and they're very special dogs, so
they
I could
are.
see that
Yep.
for sure. Yeah, absolutely. One dog behavior that secretly makes you laugh.
Um, I've seen well, just for a quick one, my dog Athena, she'll if I give her like a high value bone, she'll take it so gently and then she'll walk away with it and she'll put it somewhere. And she the other day grabbed like a lotion bottle and was bringing it over to put it on top and to hide this bone so like no one
Aw.
could take it. So she'll
Yeah.
like pick up items and not chew them. She's just picking them up and like putting them on, and then you see her digging her nose to like shove stuff over this bone.
That's cute.
So, I think that's hilarious, though, the thought process going on there of like, "Okay, I
Aw.
got this thing, I'm gonna have to grab all this stuff to, like, hide it, I can't just have it out in the open." So, yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
that's
funny thing.
precious.
Dogs do so
Animals
much
are
funny stuff.
ridiculous. Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure you see so much stuff, but
Yes,
I'm sure your
yes,
day is full of all kinds of craziness, so
yes, yep.
Go-to comfort food after a long training day.
Oh god. Probably not good stuff. I'm definitely into, like, the snacks and snacking, so I would
I
say
get it.
if I can have a cinnamon bun every day and not
Oh,
gain, like,
nice.
tons of weight, that's what I would
Yeah.
do.
Cinnamon buns are always good.
Yeah, delicious,
For
so
sure.
good.
Oh, yeah. If you weren't in dog training, what would you be doing?
Oh god. Probably something with animals. I would have to do
Yeah.
something with animals because they're my whole everything. I love working with
Yeah.
people, but I really like working with the dogs, so,
That's
yeah.
awesome. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Well, thank you again for joining me. This is exactly what I wanted to have in this conversation, not to shame anyone, but to educate, challenge old beliefs, and help people look at their dogs a little differently. If you're listening and realizing you may need to unlearn some things, that's not failure, that's growth. I'll make sure all of Kristen's information at Intertwine Canine are linked so you can continue learning and following her work. Kristen, thank you for being honest, thoughtful, and willing to talk about the things that don't always get talked about enough. As
Absolutely.
always, thank you for hanging out with me on Auntie Mel Mel Life Unfiltered. Stay curious, stay compassionate, and I'll talk to you next time. All right, friends, that's a wrap on today's episode of Auntie Mel Mel Life Unfiltered. Thank you for spending this time with me and stepping into the real, the raw, the messy, and the magical, because we don't do surface level here. If this episode hit home, made you laugh, or helped you feel a little less alone, go ahead and follow the podcast and share it with someone who might need it too. And remember, you are never too much, never too little, and never alone on this wild ride. I'll meet you back here next time for more truth, more feels, and more unfiltered goodness. This is Auntie Mel Mel signing off. Stay real, stay kind, and stay unfiltered. Thanks for hanging out with me today. This is Auntie Mel Mel. If this episode made you laugh, think, or feel a little less alone, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Sharing it really helps this community grow. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, and right here on YouTube. I'll see you in the next episode of Life Unfiltered.